Hi, everyone. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Yeah, it's me. I knew you adjust my camera here. No earthquake has happened. Ah, welcome to my takeout, my Emil Amok's takeout. Now, I have been using Emil Amok's. I know there are other things called the takeout and whatnot. I have been using Emil Amok's takeout for some time. Sometime before that other thing on a bigger network has been, but this is Emil Amok's takeout. I'm Asian. You can choose from menu A, menu B. You get your stuff, you walk away, you feel fed, you get a meal. So anyway, here we are. This is our place, our audio place. And I'm on let's see, you can find us. I call it a secret podcast because I don't put it on the traditional podcast things. I put it on YouTube at Emil Amok 1. You can see it on X, Twitter. X. I don't know. Do you think he'd rather call it Twitter since Fidelity has come out with an assessment that X has lost about 80% of its value? Can you believe that? Elon Musk is supposed to be this savant. I guess he's not really. He sees himself as that. But the latest from Fidelity is that X, since Musk bought it, is worth about 80% less. That's an investment. That I think he wants to unload it. A lot of people, just because it's Musk, have been trying to figure out, well, how do I get off of Twitter? I still call it Twitter. But you can't because, some people can, but if you have so many followers on Twitter, then you say, I'll just stay. But it's not worth it for me. I mean, my followers are so minuscule. I don't have that. I mean, I really have the option to just say, hey, I don't want to give Elon any money. I am, though. I am giving him money. Anyway, that just caught my eye the last couple of days, that news story that X has lost so much value. You figure that, he'd keep the name Twitter, but he was I guess he wants X to be the brand, and he's rebranding, but the value is not there, according to Fidelity. Fidelity says this. Okay, anyway, on Emil Amok 1 or at Emil Amok 1 on X, formerly known as Twitter, you can find me talking. And I'm going to post that my ALDEF columns, my columns which I usually put on the ALDEF site, aaldef.org/blog, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. I'm no longer posting the new ones there. I think till further notice, the older columns, and I've written 14 years of columns. It's like 855 columns, nearly 1 million words. If you Google on the search engines and put down Emil Guillermo and ALDEF and any topic, if I wrote about it, you'll find it. But I think they're keeping it up, which would be good for them, good for me, good for all of us, good for Asian Americans, because that was where I placed my Emil Amok column, which had been going strong since 1995. And then in 2010, when Asian Week folded in San Francisco, I moved, or the home for the column was ALDEF, the ALDEF site, and has been for 14 years. So it's been great, but things are changing. We're moving on. The older columns will be there, I hope indefinitely. And the new columns will be at Substack, substack.com/at Emil Amok. You can see it there. I think I put it in there. Substack.com/at Emil Amok. What does an Asian American think? WDAAT. Like I said in my final ALDEF column. What does an Asian American think? I've been trying to tell you. Actually, there's a lot of Asian Americans now, a new generation joining the previous generations that have been tilting at windmills, but new generations of writers, journalists, academics, and I'll be sharing some thoughts that the Stop AAPI Hate folks have to say about Project 2025 later on in this session. So anyway, substack.com/@Emil Amok, EMILAMOK. You can get the new columns, the latest columns, and the very latest one is on that vice presidential debate, which caught everyone by surprise. Everyone has been talking about, oh, look who's Mr. Nice Guy, and apparently, according to Axios, it was intentional. J.D. Vance intended to be nice. He knew that people were going to be loaded for bear, and so he was killing them with kindness, and it sort of worked in the sense that if you were just judging appearances, you'd say, oh, J.D. Vance won that. But now that you know his intentions and his manipulation, it just makes him into a more dangerous liar than you would have thought initially. Here's a guy who can turn it off, turn it on, can be charming, can be nice, can be evil and villainous, and he wants to run for president. You want that kind of guy? Here's a guy who could say, oh, Trump is Hitler, and then later on, when he can benefit from Trump as Hitler, says, oh, Trump's not that bad. Is that the kind of guy you want to be president? Don't you want someone who is, as Joni Mitchell might have said in one of her songs that comes to mind, someone who is as constant as the Northern Star? Wouldn't you want someone who is as constant as the Northern Star? You would think, maybe. So, Axios reporting today that J.D. Vance was totally programmed to be nice. And it sort of worked. Everyone remarked about it. You can see my column on Substack, substack.com/@Emil Amok. And I say, hey, he was nice, but maybe too nice. Too nice so that if you were a pro-Trump guy, you'd say, does he outshine Trump? That's one way of looking at it. You can also look at it that, wow, he is so nice and so effective that he makes a Republican realize what an asshole Trump is. Oh, why are we going with this guy, this orange guy, when J.D. Vance is around? J.D. Vance was suggested by Donald Trump Jr. to his father. So, the decision of J.D. Vance to play it nice complicates things on all sides. For the Republicans especially. And then for the Democrats, well, the Democrats were loaded for bear, and Walz kept saying, oh, I agree with you some of the time. Oh, it just shows you that, hey, Walz really is a moderate. He really is toward the center. And I think that one of the overall impressions I got from hearing people talk about their reaction to the debate, oh, what a refreshing thing. People were civil, nice. People were getting their points across, and they weren't going for the jugular. I mean, when Trump and Joe Biden debated, that was a nasty joke because Trump was nasty and just wouldn't let anything pass without some kind of punch. He was punching at everything. And he was a little better up against Kamala Harris, but by all accounts, people thought that Trump lost because, and I said before that Trump-Harris debate, I said, Trump may have a shot if he were nice, if he played it nice. He didn't, so he lost. J.D. Vance plays it nice, and he may have gotten some points, but he's not authentically nice like Governor Walz. And so Governor Walz has this great likability gap over J.D. Vance, which is clear even after the debate. So anyway, check out my column on substack.com/AdamElamuk, my latest take on the debate. And then, for kicks, go back to the ALDEF site and see some of my older columns. It was a good 14-year run, and I appreciate, from the bottom of my heart, having a place to house my column. Appreciate ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, in particular, the now former executive director, Margaret Fung, who is retiring after being a co-founder, one of the founders of the organization. So just happy to have been a part of ALDEF all these years. So check out, some of those old columns. They're interesting. If you go back to the last 3 or 4 columns I write in reference to some of those old columns, as I look at all the columns that I wrote about Asian America, that they were first drafts of history. And if someone looks back at this time and says, oh, what did Asian Americans think? What were Asian Americans saying publicly? Since we normally don't say anything publicly, we don't take a stand. Well, my column is there as just another piece of evidence that we were here. An Asian American voice was speaking. We weren't invisible. At least not totally. I'm not saying I'm the only voice. I'm just saying I'm one of the few. When you look at our numbers, if you count all the multi-race Asians, 25, 26 million, we are a relatively quiet group. Still changing. It's changing. I think changing more in the last 5-10 years than at any time in our presence in America. But look at the change that's about to happen. An Asian American who could be president of the United States. That's something right there. Something right there. I'm telling you. When you have a talk show, you got to have the swish. You got to have the swisher, because it just as a way to say, okay, there's the punchline. Demarcation. So anyway, substack.com/@Emil. And then if you like the audio, I'll put the audio stuff on Patreon. And you can go there and get, I'll put special ones on Patreon, and I'll put these here on YouTube and on Emil on X and on Facebook. But just so you know where to find me, where to go. And I'm going to try to make Patreon as the place where I put all the stuff where I have fun, like my storytelling shows. So if I don't feel like going to an open mic, or I don't feel like going to doing my show at a theater, I'm going to announce a show I'm doing in November at the Marsh in San Francisco. And I don't know if I could, I'll announce it on Patreon, but maybe I don't get any of the tickets, by the way. at the marsh. It's only a one-day thing. But you can see me talk about it. I'll talk about it there. What else? Yeah, Patreon will be a place where I put all the audio and all the video that is special. That that if you support our efforts here, you can go there and you could be part of the club, part of the community. And then, but the columns I'll put on Substack. I'll read the columns because so many times the columns are where I get the inspiration to do some of my one-man shows. So I will read them on Patreon. So I don't think it costs anything to join Substack or Patreon initially. And then there are tiers of what you get. So check out those sites and you'll see it's all happening. That's the new Emil Amok. I went to an open mic last night and they had this thing where it wasn't a straight open, it was a hot mic where people had to eat hot sauce to qualify for the number of minutes they get. So if you wanted 6 minutes, you had to eat the number 6 hot sauce, which was called the bomb. And if you wanted like 3 minutes, I guess they give you Tabasco sauce or something, or El Tapatio or something. I hung in there. I was going to do the bomb because I was ready to do 5-6 minutes. And I saw all these people before me just sweating and agonizing and dealing with the mind-numbing heat of the peppers. Now, in a younger day, I would have done it. I would have said, "Give me the bomb. I'll go 6." I couldn't do it. I remembered my gallstones. When you have gallstones, well, it's not gallstones, but it's just I remember my gallbladder issues. And if you have gallbladder issues, gallbladder pain, one is reminded that is God's way of sharing childbirth labor with men. If you're a male who has had, 1 child, 2 child, 3 child with your spouse, but she went through the pain and not you, gallbladder issues, gallbladder pain is God's way of sharing the load with the men. And I will attest to some gallbladder issues where I have had such excruciating pain that the only thing that would eliminate or deal with the pain was some just heavy duty painkiller. So I was watching my fellow comedians get up and talk and try to remember their set, let alone talk about the joke. And the entire set became about how ridiculously hot this number 6 hot sauce, the bomb, as it was referred to, how ridiculously hot it was, and how after even, taking a few bites, they had chicken wings. If I were to go up, I would have begged for a tater tot or a French fry or a piece of bread or something. Not a wing. But the sets became how the people were dealing with this excruciating pain, or how it just, they couldn't think, they couldn't breathe at times. So I just, halfway into the mic, waiting for my name to get pulled, I walked away. Good sense. I showed good sense. That shows that even though at my advanced age I'm doing comedy, it shows that despite that I can display a certain amount of good sense. Meanwhile, those young guys were suffering, and I pulled out of the driveway or out of the parking lot. My hearts go out to them. Maybe next week we'll just have a regular open mic. Yeah. So, but regardless, I didn't have a great night, and I was just tossing and turning, and it just was not a good night. And I woke up, and what is the news? The news today is Melania Trump says she's pro-choice, which I don't know what to think, because clearly she made a bad choice once. I mean, maybe having a child with Donald Trump would have been a second bad choice, but the first bad choice of hooking up and marrying Donald Trump, that clearly was not perhaps a good choice for her. She is pro-choice, and I heard some former Trump spokespeople try to say, well, it could be good for Donald Trump because, it shows that maybe, it softens his anti-choice position. It softens his hardline national abortion ban position. Oh, that's not really his position that's because he's lying about it. Anyway, I was amused to see Melania Trump go all pro-choice on the Donald. And I wonder if that is the Donald's way of embracing immigrants. I think, of course, he's pro-immigrant. His wife, pro-choice. His pro-choice wife, immigrant. Or maybe this is the sign of marital strife or the sign of open marriage. I don't know. Open marriage. Anyway, so that was one big piece of news I saw. And then the news that I'm taken with, is usually the crawl space, and it shows, not necessarily an old piece of news, sometimes new, but it's in the cycle. There was a big bust in LA, in the San Fernando Valley. They busted white supremacist gangs. And I was just thinking, God, thank goodness they busted some gangs with ties to white supremacy, because, just in the Trump era, the white supremacists have sort of come out from under the woodwork. I'm sure if you ask some people, they think, oh, white supremacists? Yeah. I mean, they're all over the place. They're not undercover anymore. They're in full view. And they do their things out in the open. That's because of Donald Trump. I mean, you wonder, well, why that didn't used to happen? I mean, I know that the KKK was defended by the ACLU as having free speech rights. They have a right to say these things. You have a right to say these things, but you don't have a right to enact your philosophy on society where it infringes on people as a real form of virulent and disgusting discrimination. Not in the land of the free, not in the land of equality, not in the land where all men are created equal. So when a white supremacist when the gangs are arrested with ties to white supremacy, and I saw that, and I said, wow, I hope they make a big deal. You may not have seen it. Big arrest in the San Fernando Valley area of LA, right? This is in liberal California. Just goes to show you there are all kinds. But I'd imagine there are people who are saying, oh, wait a minute, I thought it's okay to be a white supremacist. No, it's not. No, it's not. I mean, no, to be MAGA is to be white supremacist? No, just short of that. You see, this is the problem when you have Donald Trump playing around with his base who are, they're ready to go. They are white supremacists who are ready to go because they have an issue, right? They're looking at the demographic tables. They're looking at the population, the birth rates. They're looking at how America is changing, how it's mostly brown. It's getting browner, and they're getting nervous, and they say, we want to restore white supremacy. No, you can't be a white supremacist in America. I mean, you can speak out, but you can't act out your belief. That would be a crime. You can march, speak. First Amendment gives you that right, but you can't actively be a white supremacist and advocate for policies that limit people of color, that limit non-whites. That would be against the law. And that is the great thing about that piece of news, that it reminds us of where we were before we got into this Trump stuff. We were in a society that was moving along, getting along, and Trump noticed some dissatisfaction and gave it attention and let it grow. And here is where we are in 2024. We need to remind ourselves that white supremacy is not allowed, is not part of America. Underground, keep it to yourself. But when I saw that headline about gangs with white supremacist ties, well, I hope everyone sees that. Happened in LA. It's important. Just a reminder of the kind of things that are out there that we've kind of lost a handle on. Because I bet you some people would read that and say, oh, of course they're white supremacists. Yeah, I mean, we saw them January 6th. We saw them. Trump talks to them all the time. I mean, no. That's the problem with MAGA. That's the problem with Donald Trump. All right, so other bits of news. I mean, I'm so glad I didn't do that hot sauce, hot mic last night, because I know I'd be suffering now. I'd be suffering now. I would have had a gallbladder attack when I got home. I would have, for the sake of laughter, people would have laughed. Oh, Emil can't handle it. Anyway, I'm glad I didn't do it. Showed some good sense. For once. All right, I want to talk about this. I gotta find it first. This idea of Project 2025. I mean, it's a big deal. And thank goodness that Stop AAPI Hate still at it. They have put out a report called Project 2025, an existential threat to Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. From the deportation of immigrants to the full-scale attack on our civil rights, here's a rundown of Project 2025 and why it's so dangerous for Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. And this is from the group Stop AAPI Hate. It talks about the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025. Is it Trump? Trump says it's not. But it's clear a lot of the people who are associated with Project 2025 are, in fact, members, past members of the Trump administration, or future members of the Trump administration. And it's intended to be a transition project tool, an ultra-conservative, ultra-authoritarian blueprint for the remaking of the United States. Now, for some, this sounds like a good idea. If you're MAGA, ultra-right, saying, oh, we've gone too far to the left, we've gone too far, given too many freedoms to people who don't deserve it, people who should be discriminated against. This is your document if that's the way you think. If you are people like me, this should have you scared. 900 pages. Project 2025. We've been talking about it for months now, just as, hey, this is out there. Donald Trump has tried to soft pedal it. Now he's more and more, he's copping to the fact that, yeah, this is something I'm going to look at. Heritage Foundation has always been a think tank that conservatives and Republicans have looked to for ideas. So you can say, oh, these are just ideas that are just floating around. They're not going to be taken seriously. Oh, yeah, think again. When it's time to set the course for a Trump administration, God help us, they will look at Project 2025 and say, we got something here. And then you'll take these words and the critique of groups like Stop AAPI Hate more seriously. Because in bold letters, Stop AAPI Hate says Project 2025 targets AAPI and other immigrants for arrest, incarceration, and deportation. The plan gives Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE agents, broad access to detain and deport immigrants without a warrant, whatever and whenever they choose. If put in practice, ICE agents could claim the right to enter private homes, school grounds, places of business, and houses of worship in the pursuit of undocumented immigrants without getting a warrant from a judge. This is on page 142. Imagine that. We don't need a warrant. We're looking for undocumented. Oh, wait, I was born here. Oh, you look like an immigrant. You look like an immigrant. Hey, well, I was born here. You look like I got documents. What do you got? I got a Costco card. No, it doesn't count. ICE agents could go without a warrant into any place of business, school grounds, private homes. Now that's just one page, page 142. That should be scary enough. Page 148. To keep up with the rising numbers of arrests, Project 2025 also calls for the expansion of detention spaces, including tents, increasing the number of available beds to 100,000. Tents, they're going to have these tent cities. They're going to house them. We're going to have these. You think the homeless situation is bad? Well, they don't care about the homeless. But at least if you're an undocumented, arrested, they're ready to have 100,000 daily arrested. This is not the new America we were thinking about when minorities became the majority in some states, soon to be in America by 2040, maybe by mid 2030. We're going to have these detention centers. And guess what? They're not going to be government folks. Not all ICE, they're going to be private contractors. So we're going to get business into this. This is capitalism. Instead of hiring these so-called undocumented workers, because they're just assumed, alleged, they could be documented, they could be citizens. They're just people detained. So private contractors will run these facilities, and there'll be these detention centers are going to be places where people have been held subject to allegations of sexual assault, human rights violations. So detained immigrants, including children, will be in this. They'll have limited access to health care. There'll be, who knows, malnutrition, tuberculosis, mental health conditions, all this possibly coming out of these detention centers, where potentially hundreds of thousands of people daily. ICE could also force states and localities into joining their federal detention and deportation project. You remember, this is the whole point about sanctuary cities, that local governments said, look, we're local. These are people in our community. We'll do our job. You, ICE, you, federal workers, you do your job. Under Project 2025, page 566, they're looking to dissolve, any kind of firewall between locals and feds. And so, of course, it'll put sanctuary cities like Chicago, sanctuary states like New Jersey, in this position of having to choose between federal funding and protecting immigrant communities. What we're talking about is an anti-immigrant witch hunt, which has broader implications for public safety. Imagine local law enforcement compelled to share information with ICE research. And what will happen if you're in an immigrant community? Do you report a crime? Do you further go underground? Because knowing that if you speak out, you expose people's immigration status. You expose your family to the potential of being detained. This is America, mind you. This is a Trump America under Project 2025. For states like California with a large immigrant workforce, it'll devastate the economy, because these private companies that are detaining people, they're essentially detaining workers who could be out there making money for not just themselves, but for the industries that rely on the work of these immigrant people. They're not all undocumented. Some are documented, but their status will be questioned, and they will be detained until their status is determined by this new regime called the Trump administration. Project 2025, I'm reading from the Stop AAPI Hate analysis of Project 2025, also supports the termination of the DACA program, deferred arrival, or deferred DACA, childhood arrivals, deferred action on childhood arrivals program, DACA. It's been a political football ever since Obama put it through. I like DAPA, the program for parents. That made, when they made it all DACA, that was kind of weird. But DACA has survived. Members, people who were in on the first DAPA program for parents, some of them have already been deported if they weren't lucky enough to gain citizenship. But DACA, we've been waiting to see. Donald Trump has both supported and not supported DACA. I think the latest iteration of Trump is get it out of here, get it out of here. So these are the dreamers, of course. Since 2012, this program has allowed more than 800,000 people, including 14,000 Asian Americans and 150 Pacific Islanders, to attend school, find work, contribute to public life without fear of deportation. Page 145 of Project 2025. So you know this is going to be a serious thing if Trump is elected and Project 2025 becomes the blueprint. DACA is gone. In 2020, the Supreme Court blocked the Trump administration's effort to terminate DACA, but on process grounds. And that means a future administration could succeed at terminating the program and facilitate deportation of hundreds of thousands of dreamers as long as they follow the right administrative processes. So it's clear. You vote for Trump, you're going to vote for the end of DACA. You vote for Trump, you're voting for deportations, you're voting for detentions, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. The new America. Project 25, let's just go apostrophe 25, would add a citizenship question to the U.S. Census, discouraging citizens and non-citizens alike from responding, leading to decreased federal funding and political representation for immigrant-rich communities. This is on page 680. This is a tactic, right? Because if there's that citizenship question, I mean, right now there's none, but if it was there and they know where you are, even if you're a citizen, you would be scared to put something down if it might link you to non-citizens. And if you're a non-citizen, definitely you wouldn't fill out anything. The point of the census is to count every person living in the U.S. regardless of immigration status. It's not to make the census into a tool to root out undocumented immigrants. This is a tool to see where we are, not an enforcement tool to root out and deport people who shouldn't be here. And even if it were, then it should be a tool to root out and find these people and then help them gain citizenship. That's the only way. This could mean dire consequences for places like San Francisco, New York, and Atlanta. Large AAPI populations. And mind you, this isn't a novel idea. 2018, Trump wanted the citizenship question on the U.S. Census. The Supreme Court blocked the effort, but now with a conservative court beholden to Trump, this is not a good thing for immigrants, not a good thing for AAPI. (2025) on page 145 also eliminates family-based immigration and other immigration categories that have allowed generations of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to immigrate to the United States. I'm talking about older brothers and sisters, family-based, right? They're going to get rid of that. They're going to get rid of the things that allow for families. If you're here, you can't petition for you. Who knows what they're going to do in terms of what they will allow. Immediate family, maybe. But brothers and sisters, possibly not. Family-based immigration it'll change the way immigration has happened in America. You know that, right? Father came here, petitioned for nephews, petitioned for mothers and fathers. Father petitioned for brother and sister, petitioned for their families. I mean, that's how the immigration chain worked. But if they change families, how families come together, and then you've got mixed status families, you got families here and there, and they can't get together. They're trying to stop immigration, is what they're doing. They need to fix the system, but this isn't the way to fix it. You fix it with the backlog, you fix it with the paperwork, you fix it with all these other ways. You don't fix it by saying families can't exist together in the same country. Project 25 also calls for the downsizing of the H-1B visa program, which helps college graduates remain in the U.S. I mean, that's been tough. 69% of H-1B visas awarded to Asian immigrants, mostly Indians, who received about half from 2011 to 2015. Chinese 9.7, Filipino 3, South Korean 2.8. So all these things are happening to AAPI communities, and 6 in 10 Asians in America, 1 in 5 Pacific Islanders are foreign born. Most are U.S. citizens by naturalization, but 60% of us are immigrants. Asians, 1 in 5 Pacific Islanders, 20%. And then the dehumanization of immigrants. It's all throughout Project 25. Fear-mongering leads to hate and violence, leads to stupid comments by J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. They're eating our dogs, they're eating our cats. Stupid. So keep in mind, Project 2025, 2 main goals: target, imprison, and deport immigrants, no matter who they are and where they live. Target, imprison, and deport immigrants. Go in, get them without warrants. The second is to punish immigrant-rich and allied communities. San Francisco, Bay Area, LA, New York. This is Trump's revenge. You vote for Trump, Project 2025 will lead to this kind of racism that will change America forever. So I just think we've got some real problems, and we're already seeing some of it, holdovers from the previous Trump administration. They're going after Chinese scientists. And when you conflate Chinese people with Chinese government, it leads to racial profiling of Chinese Americans. And of course, Chinese Americans in teaching positions, scientific positions, but also it trickles down to all other aspects of society. You see a Chinese person, you see an Asian American. How many times when Trump blamed the virus, blamed the pandemic on Wuhan, the anti-Chinese feeling that spread throughout the nation ended up on non-Chinese people who are Asian being victimized, notably Filipino. Anyone Asian was seen as Chinese. No, we're not. Got the wrong profile. But that's what happens when Project 2025 gives a green light to crazy in America. That's what it's going to do. A green light to crazy. Now, people say, come on, Asians, you don't have to worry. Yeah, guys are so successful. Yeah. Of 24 million Asian Americans in the U.S., at least 2.3 million, that's 10%, live in poverty. 16.4% of Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders live in poverty. So you end up in a Trump administration cutting federal food assistance programs, gonna make it hard for Asian American families. This is all that's in Project 2025. Cutting back food assistance, social benefits. If you're in poverty, you'll plunge further into poverty. Reforms to K-12 and higher education. They'll make it tougher for low and middle income students to access educational opportunities. We're model minorities, we're so good. You know, a lot of the pathways to success gone. Project 2025, that's what that does. And then it also puts restrictions on reproductive rights. You don't think that's an Asian American issue? 1/3 of AAPI pregnancies end in abortion. 1/3. It's an AAPI issue. 3/4 of Asian American adults support legal abortion. It's the highest level among all racial groups. So this is, these are some of the observations of the analysis of Stop AAPI Hate, the organization. Group that I've interviewed members throughout the pandemic. And just recently, right, with their campaign to stop all hate, not just AAPI hate, all hate in California. Because, the leading victims in California, victims of hate crimes in California, African Americans. So a few more things that are worth looking at. The Project 2025 would reduce worker protections against race or gender-based discrimination. So, immediate suspension of federally funded diversity, equity, and inclusion programming. Diverse workplace, no, out the window. Wrongful and burdensome ideological project, it's called. So DEI is gone. DEI is dead under Trump. And it'll be a heyday for discrimination. We're going back. Oh, you know what one candidate says about going back? We're not going back. Well, Project 2025 says we are going back. And we shouldn't be going back. You want to go back to 1950? Well, 1965 is when the immigration law was passed. And that ended the discriminatory quotas against Asians. 1965, right? So we'd be going back to at least 65 or 64 possibly 50. It wasn't great then, but in some ways, we had a very innocent time. Now, my wife is white. She didn't come from a necessarily privileged background. What's funny is that when we talk about our childhoods, we had a lot of the same things, a lot of the same consumer goods, because we were essentially in the same class. It was class, not race. And we were all like relatively not rich, but we weren't poor. There was a middle class that was thriving in America. That was just normal. When I think back then, of course, I'm not accounting for inflation and whatnot, but rent was what, $100, $100 a month, $200 a month. Oh man, when it got to $300 a month, we were freaking out. Now that same flat in San Francisco, they were renting for $300, $350, $400. Oh, easily $3,000. Oh no, probably more. $3,000, $3,500 if it was 2-bedroom, but we had a 3-bedroom flat. Inflation. And going to college, Ivy League school, now $70,000. A good private education, $70,000. In my day, $5,000. And I had a scholarship. Oh man. So that Project 2025 analysis came from Stop AAPI Hate, and it's an eye-opener. I mean, if you don't realize what Project 2025 will do, I mean, the basic thing is ICE, without warrant, if they suspect, if they feel like harassing, they'll go in thinking, oh, there's undocumenteds living there. Oh wait, I was born here. You don't look the color of, see, you're the same color of a lot of undocumented. Hey, look, I didn't learn to talk like this because I was born in a foreign country. I'm sorry, that's just a cosmetic, superficial thing. I think you're undocumented. I was born here. I'm a citizen. It's Wong Kim Ark all over again. Remember Wong Kim Ark? Born in San Francisco's Chinatown in the 1890s. Went back. Actually, maybe 1880s. He went back to Hong Kong. Wanted to come in. Back to the United States. They wouldn't let him in. He said he was Chinese. He said, I was born here. Because of that, 14th Amendment allows for birthright citizenship because you were born on this land. He could prove he was born in America. Wong Kim Ark. Probably the single most important, it's the enduring part of Asian American history in the Constitution. Because it establishes the principle, not just for Asians, for everyone. You're born in this country, you are a citizen. And if we're talking about citizens versus non-citizens, you got to know your Wong Kim Ark. Wong Kim Ark, A-R-K. Chinese American. 14th Amendment. Google it. Anyway, so other things in the news that I wrote down, just things that caught my eye, I mentioned already. The white supremacists in LA, Elon Musk, Twitter is worth 80% less. We mentioned that. Melania is pro-choice. That was her choice to marry Donald Trump, I think. No. Oh, abortion. Yeah. Because she made a mistake on marrying Donald Trump. I I look at Melania. I do not see a happy woman. I do not see a. Do you see a happy woman there? And apparently, I saw something about nude photos of Melania. They're talking about it. You know, she is the last person I'd want to see nude. Melania Trump. I think the more clothes, the better for her. I mean, she's all right, but she does not strike me as a. She's just a cold, hard woman. Nothing beautiful about her. To me. To me. I mean, Melania Trump, if Trump loves her, he deserves her. That tells me all I need to know about Melania Trump. But maybe she'll soften him and make him pro-immigrant. Huh? Well, that's it. Hey, we've been on for an hour. Maybe I'll put this on the Patreon. Just to put it out there. I'm going to start posting. Tomorrow's I'll put on the Patreon. Try to get Professor Dan, and and you can watch us do it live. Watch us do it live, or watch it on Patreon tomorrow. All right, I think that's it. Oh, I heard some sports guys talking about it's baseball time. The Mets and the Braves are playing. God, the Mets. They looked like they were toast, and then they came back. The Giants looked like maybe they would be better than the Mets, and then the Giants fell apart. Thank goodness they fired Farhan Zaidi. I was at the tail end when I was active covering the team 2015, 2016, when Zaidi was, when he was assigned. And I thought it was good. Here's an Asian guy, right? South Asian guy, Asian American. I thought, yeah, it's good. It was not good. I mean, he just made a lot of bad decisions. He looked like a genius when Gabe Kapler, when he had that one good year, but they never repeated it. That was an exciting year. But darn, the Giants have been so disappointing during the Farhan Zaidi years that I think by the time he left, it was good riddance. Now, the one regret I have is I didn't buddy up to Buster Posey during the 2010 to 2016 years when he was a player, because I wasn't crazy about Buster Posey. He was all right. I know a lot of people liked him. I like Brandon Belt. I like Brandon Crawford. I like the pitchers. But Posey was always, he was good, solid singles guy, a little slow, solid, but yeah, Kane, Lincecum, they were my guys. Cody Ross, I like guys like him. Travis Ishikawa. I mean, Buster clearly was superstar. Is he going to be a superstar head of baseball operations? Don't know. He's got a baseball mind. You know what changed my mind about Buster's? My daughter lived in that part of Georgia, which is really kind of racist and segregationist. And it was just strange driving by Lee High School, where Buster Posey was a big star, and just being in that town, little town, so far away from Atlanta. You're saying, am I there yet? I mean, it's like 5 hours from Atlanta. You're in the deep South. You're closer to Florida than you are to Atlanta. And it's segregated, very segregated. It just sort of like made me look at Buster Posey differently. And now, of course, hey, I'm in the Bay Area. This is my home. I love the Bay Area. Okay, great. I hasten. I wonder what his politics are. But he's probably right in line with the owner of the Giants, the Trumpy owner of the Giants. So I don't have a, he's in power. Let's see if he can turn around the Giants. I like to see the Giants. This is usually the time when you say, oh, October baseball. We live for October baseball. And there's only one reason I'm excited about October baseball. It's that Shohei Ohtani, for the first time, is in the playoffs. My God, that's great. That is great. And he's the best player in baseball. Yeah, better than Bryce Harper, better than Mike Trout, better than Aaron Judge, even though I'm partial to Aaron Judge a bit because Aaron Judge is Central Valley, 209. Love Aaron Judge. But Shohei, something about an Asian American swinging that 34.5-inch bat. It just makes an Asian guy cheer, I'm looking forward. Dodgers Padres. It's going to eclipse Dodgers Giants because the Padres are a better team. Giants had a chance. They stole the Padres' best pitcher. Had Blake Snell. Blake Snell, I'm sure, is kicking himself because he could have been in there had he chosen the Padres. But he chose the Giants, and I'm glad. But the Giants weren't anything this year. That's baseball. Next year. Maybe next year. All right. We're going to close it out. I'm laughter yoga. I'm a certified laughter yogi. I am. And I am going to go 1 minute. 1 minute of laughter. Yeah, one minute of laughter for world peace. Are you ready? Yeah, are you ready to go with me? Okay, go. Up and this is three breaths, right? Into the nostrils, out through the mouth. Into the nostrils, out through the mouth. Now let's go 1 minute for world peace. Ready? In, breathe in from the diaphragm. Hello. Yeah. That was 104 seconds there. Now you see, the laughter bring the oxygen through your body, to the brain, the oxytocins, the endorphins, the serotonin, everything's firing up. You feel energized. Generally, people who practice laughter yoga say, yeah, I feel healthy, energized. And it's laughter independent of humor, laughter independent of jokes. So you can just listen to me and just start laughing right now if you want. Just start laughing right now. And by laughing, voluntary laughter, not involuntary laughter, but voluntary laughter, you just get the oxygen going. You get the nitric oxide going, opening up the endothelial linings in your body, the blood flow. Feel good. That's a minute. You should ideally do it for about 5. And sometimes, you pull in the abs, you breathe through the abs, you make it into an ab workout. And laughter yoga is not a comedy. It's an exercise program that combines the best aspects of yoga, the breathing with laughter, to get that blood flowing, to make you feel good. It was invented in 1995 by Dr. Madan Katarian in Bombay, and I've studied with Dr. Katarian. I've studied with him. He certified me as a laughter yoga leader, as a certified laughter yogi, and it has helped me get through a lot of moments when I just needed a change of perspective and needed just, a little fresh air in my thinking and in my approach to things. Now, I still meditate. I still do a combination of Vipassana and some Yoga Nidra. And that too has helped me to deal with things on the outside, to make the insides better, to deal with the struggle, to deal with how my insides react to the outside. They don't react. I try not to let them react. And I feel better, happier beyond my circumstances. You can ask for more. Hey, I'm Emil. Thanks for joining us. We end with a little loving kindness. The loving kindness, it's not really prayer. Meditations. Metta, M-E-T-T-A. Send out the love. It's always love-based. Send out the love. Get the love back twofold. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Check out the columns on the ALDEF site. All the old ones will be there. New ones at substack.org or substack.com/@EmilAmok. And Patreon for all the audio, the video. My thanks to you. Thank you for being here. Till next time. Mahal